Alright, so today I got an insane story time for you all about the time that I had to drive through Ohio. That's right, I've been to Ohio and I lived to tell the tale. Figured it would be an insane story time, so yeah, sit back, relax, and enjoy the story time, boys. Okay, so for those of you who've been watching my channel for a bit, you might recall that I went to Disney earlier this year, where I got kicked out of Magic Kingdom for literally no reason. Yeah, I still don't really know what I did to deserve that. Anyway, so as I've mentioned before on this channel, I live in the province of Ontario, and because I live in Ontario, it was a long drive down to Florida to get to Disney, and as part of that long drive, I had to go through the state of, you guessed it, Ohio. Now I'm sure you've all heard a lot of rumors about Ohio, right? About how Ohio is basically the most bizarre and unsafe place in the world. Well, I can confirm that those rumors are true, because I survived Ohio. Alright, so about a couple hours after we leave Canada and arrive in the US, my family sees a sign approaching saying, "Welcome to Ohio." Yep, that's right, we were officially in Ohio. Now, I didn't really think much of it at first. I was thinking kind of, oh, just another one of the many states we have to drive through. You know, no big deal. I didn't think it was going to be unusual at all. But let's just say I was very wrong about that. So I'd say maybe about 10 or 15 minutes after we arrive in Ohio, I noticed that dark clouds start slowly forming. Now, at this point, I assume that it's probably just going to be a regular thunderstorm. I didn't really see it as unusual quite yet. However, a few minutes later, I see the first thing which kind of makes me think, hey, that's a little odd. What's that doing here? Because I see what appears to look like UFOs flying around. Now, typically, you're not really used to seeing UFOs unless, you live in Ohio, because they're apparently very common there. Now, at this point, I was kind of like freaking out a little bit. I thought Ohio was just going to be a normal state, like the last one we had to drive through. But now there are literal UFOs flying around. That's not something you typically see every day. And I was getting a bit worried. My mind was thinking stuff like, okay, either these aliens are going to kill us, or they might just leave us alone. That's kind of what was going through my mind. And it seems that the UFOs and the aliens were kind of keeping their distance. So I started to, calm down a little bit. But as I'm starting to think, hey, it's not really a big deal. These UFOs are just gonna fly around normally. One of them decides to fly right behind us. So now we're being trailed by a UFO in Ohio. And this UFO just keeps following us like it won't leave. So now my whole family's freaking out. And I start realizing at this point that maybe Ohio is not the most normal place in the world. Maybe Ohio is just a bit weird. Just a little bit weird. At this point, I'm starting to get a sense of what Ohio is like. I realized that, okay, so Ohio is definitely a little bit out there. Like, what? I've only seen UFOs flying around? One of them actually trailing us? This is just only in Ohio, I guess. Or maybe it's in other places too. I don't know. But I quickly come to the realization that I haven't seen any other cars. Not a single one. The only vehicles I've seen other than the car that we're in is all these UFOs flying around. I'm starting to wonder, why aren't there any other cars in sight? Like, there's absolutely no way that we're the only ones here. It just doesn't make any sense at all. Something was definitely off about Ohio. I knew that much, but I still didn't know what exactly was off about Ohio. So anyways, we're still driving, still being trailed, and that's when we see a bridge approaching. It appeared that we were about to go over a river or something, which, usually isn't a big deal. When you go over a bridge, you go over the bridge. End of story. But as we're approaching this bridge, we see that there is a giant person in a red cloak. This person's got to be like at least 100 feet tall. And things are bad when this is only the second weirdest thing I've seen so far in Ohio. Anyways, as we're going over the bridge, we see that this giant person in a red cloak starts walking through the water over to us. Now, I'm assuming most of you have never had a giant person walking over to the bridge you're driving over, but let me just say that it's absolutely terrifying. We were extremely scared, and because we were so scared, my dad stomps on the gas to try to get us out of there even faster. However, as my dad stomps on the gas, we hear a thump on the top of our car. Me and my sister, who are in the back, we look up, and we see that there is a literal alien on the roof of our car. Now we're guessing it was the same one that was in the UFO and somehow jumped onto the car. But now we got two things to worry about, right? We got this giant person in a red cloak walking over to the bridge, and now we also got this alien literally on top of our car. The alien is trying to say something, and while I can't hear quite what it is, it sounded a bit like, "No one leaves this place," or something like that, which again, that kind of freaks me out a little bit more. There's this literal alien on our car saying that we are never going to leave this place. I don't know quite what my mind was thinking at that point, but it was probably getting like kind of scared. Anyway, so we're getting closer to the end of the bridge, right? And the giant person in the cloak is coming closer. My dad is still driving absolutely as fast as he can, and this giant person just keeps getting closer to the bridge, and it shouts out, "No one leaves Ohio." Now, that's kind of like the exact same thing that the alien said, except it said Ohio instead of this place. But, still basically the exact same thing. But this is the moment that I realized that Ohio is just an evil place, and there's nothing anyone can ever say to convince me otherwise. So we're finally approaching the end of the bridge, right? And that's when this giant person is close enough to the bridge where it can touch it, and I see that it raises its arms above its head and swings them down onto the bridge, basically snapping it in half. We were close to the end of the bridge, so we weren't like full on in the impact, but our car did start to tip back a little bit, and the alien ends up sliding off of our car, and I think it like fell into the water. It could have drowned, but I don't know if aliens can swim. I'm not really sure if it's still alive or not, but it doesn't really matter. Now, my dad is trying to drive as fast as he can, and we do end up making it to the end of the bridge and back on the land, away from the collapsing bridge and the giant person that's trying to kill us. Now, that was a huge relief, as I did not want to die in Ohio. So anyways, we keep on driving from there, and we see a few more weird things in Ohio. It appeared we passed the part of the state where the UFOs are, because this new part was where all the dinosaurs were. Yep, it turns out the dinosaurs never went extinct after all. They just moved to Ohio. A couple of the dinosaurs, including a T-Rex and a few raptors, did chase our car, and that was pretty scary, but our car was simply too fast for them. A little while after that, we did end up finally getting out of Ohio and continued our road trip into the next state. We enjoyed our time in Disney, well, except for that incident in Magic Kingdom. My family all agreed to never go to Ohio again, and that's actually why we took a different route on our way back. Alright, as I'm sure you figured out by now, this video is just a huge joke. While I did actually drive through Ohio, it was the most normal place I've ever been. I didn't see any aliens or dinosaurs. This video is just simply an Ohio meme. Anyways, if you want to hear what happened to me in Magic Kingdom, I made a story time about that a few months ago. Here it is on the end screen now.